Please sit. Good afternoon. Law school faculty and administration, family and friends, and members of the Cornell Law School class of 2016. I'm Eduardo Peñalver, the Alan R. Tesler Dean of the Cornell Law School. Okay, all right. Today is a very special day for our graduates, as you can tell from their enthusiasm. It's also a special day for the families of our graduates, particularly for their parents who have supported them emotionally, financially, throughout their lives and right up to this important day. Before we begin, I'd like to give our graduates the opportunity to take a moment to offer their parents a round of applause and gratitude for everything they've done. The JD members of the class of 2016 entered law school during a time of great uncertainty in the legal profession. At the time you chose to become lawyers, the legal job market was still very much in the process of recovering from the impact of the Great Recession. And 3 years later, the job prospects of Cornell graduates have fully recovered, putting Cornell third in the nation in job placement last year. Nevertheless, uncertainties remain regarding the long-term trajectory of the legal profession. Outsourcing and automation are changing the way that lawyers earn a living. Solo practitioners find themselves competing with cheap TurboTax-like computer products such as LegalZoom. Just last month, one law firm announced that it would become the first to use an artificial intelligence tool based on IBM's Watson. But while machines are now capable of undertaking certain tasks previously performed by lawyers, I'm not ready to surrender to our new robot overlords just yet. Creative and sophisticated lawyering like you will be doing is a complex and subtle undertaking. It calls for practical wisdom and sound prudential judgment. And for the foreseeable future, it will remain a uniquely humanistic and human undertaking. Nevertheless, in these times of rapid change, it's more important than ever to be graduating from a law school that's rightly recognized as one of the best in the nation, a law school that's known for consistently producing graduates who are exceptionally smart, who are analytically astute, who are hardworking and unpretentious. And so you chose wisely in going to law school, but also in deciding to come to Cornell. Not only do we live in a time of uncertainty for our profession, but we're also witnessing a time of profound ferment in our political system. The state of our democracy, as it has revealed itself over the past year, gives me pause. Since the time of Plato and Aristotle, philosophers have understood the fragility of democracy, the thin line that separates majority rule from mob rule. In a speech he gave as a young lawyer, not much older than our graduates, Abraham Lincoln warned that the greatest threat to American freedom was not foreign aggression, but the domestic dangers of the lynch mob and the demagogue. In our political process today, the fragility of democracy is on full display. But as alarming as the dispatches from our presidential campaign have become, I take hope in the value of our profession, the values of the Cornell Law School. I take hope because, as Lincoln recognized in that same speech, and in this he also echoed Aristotle, the best safeguard of our fragile democratic institutions is the rule of law. The British playwright Robert Bolt called the rule of law the very pattern of society, a shelter for us from chaos and disorder. Acknowledging the importance of the rule of law is not the same as declaring blind allegiance to the content of the law as it now exists. Robert Bolt understood this distinction very well and actually went on to jail for civil disobedience in protests against nuclear weapons. A sound legal education simultaneously affirms respect for the rule of law, and imparts the critical skills necessary to ferret out the areas of law in need of reform. And there are plenty of those in our legal system. As the inscription in Cornell's moot courtroom says, quoting Harvard law dean Roscoe Pound, the law must be stable and yet it cannot stand still. But how do we know when to favor stability, when to favor change? This is a crucial question, often the crucial question, and it's the lawyer's privileged role in answering this question that makes the study and the practice of law simultaneously so challenging and so rewarding. What is the essential meaning of marriage? Should robots be allowed to drive cars? Who owns the selfies taken by a monkey? When society needs to answer vital questions like these, it invariably turns to our profession. And whenever you find these questions being answered, you will find Cornell lawyers hard at work. Actually, the monkey's lawyer went to Duke. There's a rich and fertile tension in the space between respect for the rule of law and criticism of the law's content. And there's no better place to examine that tension than Cornell Law School. And so again, you chose wisely. Why is Cornell so special? As I've said on many occasions, what makes Cornell distinctive among elite law schools is our commitment to both excellence and inclusion, a combination that yields its own rich and fertile tension. Our dedication to these values goes back to the very founding of our university, to Ezra Cornell and A.D. White's ambition to found a university where the most highly prized instruction would be available to anyone regardless of sex or color. In her inaugural address, Cornell President Beth Garrett, whose tragic and untimely passing at the age of 52 we still mourn, described this university's founding values as both radical and progressive. And it remains inspiring to me that our law school's first graduating class included a man born in slavery, George Washington Fields. And it's in keeping with Cornell's radical and progressive mission that today Cornell Law School is one of the most diverse top law schools in the country. And there's a deep connection between Cornell Law School's diversity and its excellence as a place for exploring the most challenging questions surrounding the nature and the content of law. Social scientists have observed that diverse groups deliberate more effectively than homogeneous ones. Diverse groups bring the varied perspectives and experiences of their members to bear on the problems they set out to examine. They have fewer intellectual blind spots. They are less prone to making unfounded assumptions. They perform better, except when they don't. Because while diverse groups are capable of deliberating more effectively than homogeneous ones, they can also splinter into factions that refuse to engage with one another. And when that happens, the quality of their deliberations suffers accordingly. Not every diverse community is inclusive. Nurturing a diverse community into an inclusive one requires effort and commitment. It demands mutual respect and forbearance. Like democracy, collegiality amidst diversity is a fragile and precious thing. And we're fortunate that the diversity of Cornell Law School students and faculty, the racial and gender diversity, but also the diversity of opinion and life experience, is matched by our commitment to respectful engagement across our differences. Because of our small size and, yes, our location, Cornell remains a law school where people learn to respect and care for one another. That's not to say that we're perfect. This year we've taken our share of star turns on the site that must not be named. Luckily, the recent email exchange over third-year superlatives did not lead to yet another appearance. Dean Minor is smiling over there. So. But what defines a community as inclusive is not whether its members make occasional mistakes, but how it chooses to respond to them. And this year, we have used those moments as opportunities to reaffirm our sense of community, and we've come through them with our bonds intact and even strengthened. The Cornell Law School is a strong and tightly knit family. When one of our members suffers, we all feel it. This year, one of your classmates, Arlen Cohen, was assaulted while studying abroad in Cape Town, South Africa. During the assault, he fell onto a train platform and suffered a severe head injury. and he was forced to take a leave of absence from the law school. Arlen's road to recovery will be long and arduous, and we all wish him the best on that difficult journey. And we're delighted that Arlen is able to be with us here today to celebrate with the class of 2016. Yes, you chose wisely. The Cornell Law School community of which you have chosen to become a part is a resilient one. The imprint of your time in Ithaca will remain with you long after this important day. Your connection to the Cornell Law School is permanent. To paraphrase Michael Corleone and Tony Soprano, just when you think you're getting out, we pull you back in. The bonds you have formed will continue to pull you together over the course of your careers. Those bonds are rooted in our shared commitment to respectful engagement, even in the face of deep disagreement about important issues that we all care about. It is this shared commitment that gives Cornell lawyers their trademark collegiality and decency. Cornell's values of excellence and inclusion, our dedication to respectful engagement, have never been more indispensable, and they've never been in such short supply in our political process. And so while I'm proud to be associated with our profession and its values, I'm even more proud to be associated with this law school and with you, the class of 2016. And so it's therefore my great pleasure and privilege from this day forward to be able to call you Cornell lawyers. Once again, congratulations, class of 2016.